Have you ever met somebody who just doesn't really seem like they care about anything? Like maybe you say, oh, I'm really excited, we're gonna have steak for dinner tonight. And they say, steak's all right. And you go, oh, okay, well then maybe we should have spaghetti instead. And they go, I don't really know about spaghetti. You go, well, what kind of food do you like? And they're like, I just eat food because I have to. I don't really like it that much. Or maybe you're working on a project with someone and you say, oh, this is gonna be such a great idea. What do you think? And they go, I don't think that idea is that great. And you feel kind of deflated. And you go, well, okay, well, what ideas do you have? And they're like, I don't really have any ideas. I don't know what we should be doing here. And that apathy just kind of derails any forward momentum that you would otherwise be having. And it's kind of frustrating, right? When people don't really care. But can somebody care too much? Going back to that work project example, say instead of being really apathetic and not caring about how the project is done at all, they're a little bit too enthusiastic or care a little bit too much about exactly how that project should go. For instance, you say, hey, I think it would be great if we did a presentation and we said this and this and this. And they go, no, absolutely not. We can only do this kind of presentation with this in that order and no other added information. And you go, that doesn't seem to make a lot of sense given what we're trying to accomplish here. And they go, no, this is the way it has to be. And if you think differently, then I'm going to be really upset. And usually they don't say, if you think differently, I'm going to be really upset. But that's just kind of what happens. If you push back and they really, really care about it, they're going to be pretty upset and feel underappreciated or really mad at you. And it gets to be a pretty messy, volatile situation really quickly. And I was just talking to a mentor at work this week, and he was talking about how at an earlier point in his career, he really, really cared about exactly how things were done. He would research out projects and exactly how software should be used, and then propose that to his boss or to the team. And when that would get rejected, he would be really upset. Because understandably, he cared a lot about how the project would run because he had a lot of expertise in how that should go and a lot of great knowledge, and he'd been working on it for a long time. When the boss or the team doesn't greenlight it, it can be really frustrating and it can seem like nobody cares about you or you're undervalued or a lot of things. He said, these days I still have opinions. I still try to be really thoughtful and research big decisions and make those big decisions with a lot of intentionality, but if for some reason they don't happen or somebody else has a different opinion, I'm going to listen to that because I don't necessarily care about my thing being the one that gets done. I just want to do what's best for the team, for the department, for the company. Because at the end of the day, that's what's really important. Not whether or not my thing gets done or that I get the credit, but that the company is successful and the team is working well together. And I said, so it sounds like what you're saying is there's a sweet spot in how much to care. And he said, yeah, exactly. You don't want to care too little and be really apathetic, but you don't want to care too much and be so on fire about everything that nobody can really get anything done. And they have to walk on eggshells every time that they're talking to you or around you. And people can't get it done as well as a result because there's a limiting factor in that process, which is the person who just can't let it go. They, for whatever reason, really need it to be done that exact way. And if there's a bigger picture involved, sometimes that just kind of gets lost in the emotions and the amount of identity that we tie into our work. So what are some ways that we can care in the sweet spot? Not too little, not too much. Well, for me, caring too much is actually a much bigger problem than caring too little. So I don't know about you. You could oscillate between the two or feel like you're always apathetic. But for me, I tend to care too much rather than to care too little. And I can be really perfectionistic about things that I don't need to be and I shouldn't be. So one of the things that I'm trying to do is remember that just because I think it doesn't mean it's a great idea. I do want to have confidence in myself, but just because I go, okay, here are 5 possibilities and I think this one is the best because here are the goals, and somebody else goes, well, I think this one's the best, and I see that those are the goals, but I think that this is actually better because A, B, and C. And there are a lot of times that I would just go, no, that's dumb. Obviously, this is better. You're wrong, which doesn't really help anybody. It just causes friction. So instead, I try to go, wow, that's actually a really, really good point. Let's do what you said instead. Even if I think my idea is still better, I want to try to do what the other person's ideas are, because not only does that foster teamwork and build a relational connection that we can then use to have a really good conversation about how both of the goals that we have in mind, or the ways to get to the goals that we have in mind, can be merged, or that the important things of both of them can come together to create a solution that's better than either of us could come up with on our own. But it also just takes a lot less effort to listen to other people and to just help them do what they say, rather than needing to stand your ground on every single little thing. You don't need to make mountains out of molehills. Small things should stay small, big things can be big, but understand that most things are not big. Think about, in 5 years, am I going to wish I stood my ground on this? Am I going to even remember this project or this conversation in 5 years? And the likely answer is no. So that means it's not that big of a deal. Now, there are some things that you will remember in 5 years. And if you're going to remember that thing in 5 years, then maybe it is a good idea to stand your ground. Think about the things that you remember from 5 years ago that you did stand your ground on. Chances are that if you stood your ground on a lot of things, that most of them have some regret tied to them. I know that I stood my ground on things that I really didn't need to, like a specific process that didn't actually matter that much, but I was like, no, we need to do it this way. And instead of coming up with an even better process, I just said, no, we need to do it this way. And as a result, it was actually pretty limiting for my coworkers, because I was the only one that knew how that process worked and what was going on. And they were kind of walking on eggshells every time that they asked me about it. And it actually ended up hurting me and the company as a whole. But what if, instead of caring too much, you care too little? What are some ways that you can care a little bit more and get to that sweet spot? If you don't care enough, then I don't have a lot of good experience or tips for you, unfortunately. I would say there are times that I don't care very much, and the times that gets me in trouble are when I can tell it really matters to the other person, or people that are on a project, or that I'm talking to about something that's important to them. And when you're in danger of caring too little, just remember how much that relationship matters to you. If there's somebody who's really important to you and they're coming to you with something and they say, wow, I'm really excited to cook some steak for dinner tonight. And you go, whatever, steak's not even that cool. And then they feel shot down. Instead you say, wow, I'm really glad that you are being so intentional about that. Tell me more. And you can kind of catch their enthusiasm a little bit and reflect it back to them. So that even if you don't have a lot of stake in, different kind of stake, even if you don't have a lot of stake in what they're saying, you can, out of principle or out of interest, and it doesn't really apply to you, but you care about that relationship, so you can reflect back to them and ask them more about it and learn more about it, because that also helps you learn more about them and helps them feel cared for and listened to, which is really, really great. So this week, I want you to identify one place that you either care too much or care too little, and take a step towards getting to the sweet spot. So if you care too little, have a conversation with somebody who cares more about that thing and ask them why they care about that so much, as a step to kind of bridge that gap up to caring more about it, to get to that caring sweet spot. And if you care too much, still have a conversation with somebody, but find somebody who has a little bit more perspective on that project and say, hey, how much does this matter in the grand scheme of things? Do I need to be really perfectionistic about this project? Or better yet, you can go to a coworker that you're working on a project on and say, hey, I'm really sorry that I said that this was the only way that we could do this. What are your ideas again? And let's do those. And that can break you out of your normal rhythm of caring too much or caring too little, and help you get closer to that sweet spot. So let me know how that goes, and I'll see you next week.